The Half Moon wasn't much to look at from the outside. Just another tired little pub squatting on the edge of a street no tourist would bother photographing. Its battered old sign hung slightly crooked over the door, one half moon of flaking silver paint catching the light like it was winking at some private joke. The windows were smudged from the inside. The door stuck when it was humid. Even the hanging flower baskets out front had long since given up, trailing dead stems like surrender flags. To Emma, it might as well have been sacred ground. She came every Thursday like clockwork, slipping into the table by the window, the one that leaned a little towards the street and caught the last scraps of daylight in its scratched glass surface. Her table, it wasn't special. It wasn't comfortable. But it was steady. And lately that counted for more than comfort anyway. Emma herself was quiet in the way that people sometimes mistook for shyness. She wasn't shy. She just liked her own company. Slim and pale in a way that suggested she either avoided the sun or it avoided her, she wore the kind of soft jumpers that always looked slightly borrowed and jeans just this side of falling apart at the knees. Her hair, dark, neat, pinned back today in a loose twist, had that unconscious, unbothered sort of prettiness about it. Like she hadn't tried, and somehow that was the point. There was always a book in her hands, always cider in her glass. And lately, almost always, Jade behind the bar. Jade didn't fit the Half Moon. Not really. She was too sharp for it. Too quick. She moved like she could smell trouble before it even thought about arriving, with a wiry little frame built less for beauty and more for velocity. Her hair today was purple, or some moodier cousin of purple, styled in messy spikes that defied gravity on principle. Tattoos crawled down her arms like notes in a journal only she could read. A cartoonish skull peeked out from the edge of her sleeve. A badly drawn cat stretched across one wrist, looking permanently unimpressed. Jade didn't smile much. Not in the obvious way. But when she caught Emma's eye from across the room, just for a second, the edges of her mouth twitched like she was privately amused by something only they shared. That tiny secret softness was better than any grin. Emma liked that about her. Liked a lot of things about her, actually. The dry, effortless sarcasm. The fact that Jade always topped up her drink without asking. The way her deadpan could make a grown man wilt faster than bad lighting. But mostly, Emma liked that Jade left her in peace, except when she didn't. Except when she lingered just long enough for Emma to wonder if maybe she didn't want peace quite as much as she pretended. That fragile little balance, quiet comfort threaded through with curiosity, lasted right up until Dean walked in. Dean looked like a man who still thought aftershave was a personality trait. He swaggered in like he'd mistaken the Half Moon for somewhere that gave a toss about how many crunches he could do. Broad-shouldered in that generic gym-bodied way, fake tan clinging a little too close to his hairline, and a shirt that strained over arms obviously built for flexing at mirrors, not lifting pints. His cologne hit the air first, sharp and synthetic, like getting smacked in the face by a department store. Emma didn't even glance up from her book. She could feel him approaching like bad weather. "All right, love," Dean announced, hauling out the chair across from her like he'd just earned the right to sit there. "Name's Dean." Emma turned a page. "How tragic," she murmured. He blinked, then laughed, loudly. The way men laughed when they thought you were being cute instead of dismissive. "So, you single then?" Emma sighed. She could have lied. Could have told him she was waiting for someone. But experience had taught her that men like Dean thought the word no was a puzzle, not an answer. "I'm lesbian," she said without looking up. For a second, Dean froze like he'd just walked into a door he hadn't seen coming. "You what?" She looked at him now. Calm, mildly bored. "Lesbian," she repeated. Like, really not interested. Dean narrowed his eyes, suspicious like she'd just insulted his car. "So you want to have sex with women?" Emma blinked slowly. She wondered distantly if he thought lesbians just walked around like wolves in heat, waiting to pounce on the nearest woman in sight. "Not right this second," she said sweetly. "Right now I mostly want to finish my book." It was, apparently, the wrong answer. Dean leaned back, loud and blustering. That's bollocks, he declared. If you're a lesbian, then you want to have sex with women. Emma closed her book with the heavy, deliberate patience of someone resisting every urge she'd ever had for violence. Honestly, she said, right now I mostly want you to leave. Dean bristled like a man unused to rejection and stomped off toward the bar, clearly intending to file some sort of complaint with the manager, who was, unfortunately for him, Jade. Jade, watching the whole thing from behind the bar with the expression of a cat watching a slow bird, barely moved as Dean jabbed a finger back toward Emma. That girl's being proper rude, he huffed. Told me she was a lesbian just to wind me up. Jade raised one unimpressed eyebrow. What exactly do you want me to do about that? She asked, dry as sandpaper. Dean flailed. Kick her out. Jade polished the same glass for about 3 seconds longer than necessary. Then, with the easy, unbothered saunter of someone who'd long ago mastered customer service as blood sport, she walked over to Emma's table. Hey, Jade said, voice low, eyes gleaming faintly with mischief. Sorry about your admirer. Emma snorted. Can't win them all. Jade's mouth twitched. Then, like she was trying it on for size, she added perfectly casual, perfectly deadpan. So, can I have your number? Emma froze for half a heartbeat, then smiled. Small, warm, absolutely genuine. Yeah, she said, reaching for a napkin. You absolutely can. She scrawled her number with deliberate carelessness, sliding it across the table like it was a bet. Jade picked it up like a prize and, turning slowly toward Dean, who was watching with the slack-jawed horror of a man watching his own funeral, said sweetly over her shoulder, See? She's a lesbian. Dean let out a noise somewhere between a scoff and a dying lawnmower. That's not what I meant, he wailed. I wanted you to kick her out. Jade didn't even blink. Nah, she said easily. She's my favorite regular. Dean stormed out of the half moon in a cloud of cheap cologne and injured pride. Silence returned like a held breath released. Jade spun the napkin between her fingers. For real, though, she added, just for Emma, voice softer now, almost shy beneath the deadpan. Drinks on me next week if he shows up again. Emma grinned, real and slow. Deal. There was a beat, just long enough for something else to settle between them. And, Emma said, quieter still. Wasn't kidding, by the way. Jade's grin, when it came, was slow and bright and sharp enough to make Emma feel like she'd just won something. Good, Jade said simply. Would have been a shame to waste a perfectly good number.